Hi, Temple of the Adversarial Forge. This is Pong again. This video is a video response to a video question that was just posted by a member of the Forge. And the question was in regard to ritual, the importance of it, what is necessary, what isn't. Now, I have touched on this briefly, but not so much for this purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and go into a little more depth here. He was talking about circle casting, first of all, so I'm going to bring that up because I did do a video on the importance of that. And he asked, what is the importance of facing east and west and north and south? And well, the answer is pretty simple. You are basically creating a microcosmic model of cosmic forces. Okay, and the reason I say this is the circle is normally broken down into 4 elements. But the circle is also, on a more macrocosmic level, a model of an astrological chart. I mean, it contains all 12 houses of the zodiac. So, you have these astrological forces at work at the highest level. Then you have these elemental forces at work. And then you have yourself, who is the center of the universe. So symbolically, that is what you are doing. Now, this is important for 2 reasons, Zenith. The first reason is this. You are basically neutralizing elemental forces and making them more malleable to your will. Elemental forces are operating in your life at all times. And by summoning the elements and getting their attention, bringing them forth to the circle, you're basically able to command them to achieve the desired goal. Now, you will notice, unless you are working within a Wiccan paradigm or paradigm, most of the time you're going to be calling upon specific entities. And these entities will always align with the elemental correspondence. For instance, within the order of Phosphorus, if the north is Belial, the south is Satan, and the west is Leviathan, representing the abyss or water, and in the east is Lucifer, the bringer of light. He's in the east because, well, that's where the sun rises, that's where the light comes from. Now, that's just one example of many. There's a lot of traditions that do not consider Lucifer and Satan to be different. But regardless, you are basically taking elemental forces and making them subject to your will. But in regard to the entities, okay, one of the first things you're going to learn in any magical lodge is, number 1, meditation, but that's not relevant for this video. And number 2 is the main circle casting, the encircling rite. And this is what every ritual begins and ends with. Now, the encircling rites can be done in and of themselves as methods of empowerment. And the reason I'm saying this is because when you're calling upon these entities, there is a transference of power that starts to happen. Your vibes start meshing with theirs and vice versa. And you begin to align with these forces. And you develop a working relationship with the entities in question, because they're usually the patron entities of the tradition. I'm not going to say that's in all cases, but Now, as I've said before, ceremonial magic has been called the yoga of the West. And there's a reason for that, okay? Look at the encircling rite as a yogic posture or an asana. You're stimulating your subtle energy bodies and expanding them. When you're constantly doing these rites, it expands your aura, it expands your power, your personal power. It enables you to raise more and more intense levels of energy. In most traditions, before you learn any other magic, you're doing an encircling rite for a year. Now this is traditional, mind you. I've yet to join a lodge to where this has actually been enforced nowadays, but traditionally this was the case. You did not do anything until you did an encircling rite for years on end, and this basically developed discipline. So develops that as well. There's a purpose behind these things. Now, you were talking about, the chalices and the athames and the wands and the candles. Everybody starts in magic wanting to accumulate all these things. But in all actuality, they are mere extensions of self. As a beginner, though, I consider them to be very important. I mean, a lot of them serve practical purposes. For instance, during invocation, okay, within Wicca, this cracks me up, but I'm just going to give an example. You get these teeny bopper Wiccans, okay? Diana, I invoke thee! And they just call the goddess Diana to destroy some girlfriend of hers for stealing her boyfriend, this, that, and the other. And it's just hilarious. But the chalice, for instance, is very important for invocation. Now you have to remember that water is a spiritual gateway. Alright, when Jesus cast out Legion, they begged to go into the swine, and where did the swine go? They went into the nearest body of water, so that they could dissipate and disperse. Now on the opposite end, this is also how spirits come. A lot of times in invocation, here's what I do. This is where my chalice is a very important tool that I rarely work without. Number one, what I will do is I will spill my blood within the wine or the water within the chalice. And this gives a little bit of my personal essence for the spirit to latch onto. It's like an offering, okay? Now, as I'm reciting this invocation and building energy and building energy, I finish the invocation and I look into this chalice. And when I see the spirit through my scrying vision, I know it has accepted my blood offering, and I literally consume the spirit. So the water acts as a gateway for that spirit to enter my body. The athame, it's very symbolic as well. It represents the double-sided dagger, the double-edged blade, which is really very symbolic of the left-hand path. You can use it to create and whittle wood, but you can also cut down enemies. You can use it to create and whittle wood, but you can also cut off your own finger if you're not careful. It's a reminder of that. Now, are these things absolutely necessary? No. As a matter of fact, a lot of us simply spend time in meditation, and we will go through magical rites just in our mind, as a means of exercising our magical imagination, as E.A. Koetting calls it. And I've taught this for years. And what am I talking about? The fact that the imagination is not an obstacle we have to overcome, that it is indeed the very path between who you are now and who you wish to be. Now, the important thing is when you're doing these things in your mind, you have to really get yourself into it. You can't afford a cool magical sword. Guess what? You can create the most awesome sword you want in your mind's eye with your magical imagination. You can create the most beautiful magical tools. And it's going to help you out a lot because you're working on utilizing your astral senses. Okay, you want to feel yourself moving around the circle, feel the ground beneath your feet, smell the air, feel the moisture in the air on your skin, feel this imaginary athame in your hand. You're really getting your astral senses into this. And it can be just as powerful, if not more so. Now, I have a feeling, this question is coming from you're just wondering what you need to get now. And I stated this before in regard to martial arts. It is not the clashing of 1,000 swords that makes a warrior. A naked man alone in an empty room can forge the warrior's soul. You need to deal with the hand you're dealt. Do not let your lack of tools or knowledge thereof keep you from practicing. Hope that answered the question. I'm out.